Something huge and unexpected is happening in Burkina Faso, not just in the political landscape, but on the very roads of the country. Itawa, the nation's pioneering domestic electric vehicle brand, has emerged as a potent symbol of national pride and a tangible stride toward a more sustainable and economically independent future. This initiative resonates deeply with the vision of Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, whose leadership has consistently emphasized local innovation, self-reliance, and a decisive break from traditional patterns of dependency that have long characterized the relationship between Africa and the global north. Itawa's initial foray into the market with the native and the Sahel models, amongst several others, signifies a commitment to addressing both the specific needs of the local population and the pressing global concerns surrounding climate change. The Sahel in particular, with its impressive reported range of 330 kilometers on a single charge, and its suite of modern features including a touchscreen dashboard, GPS navigation, Bluetooth connectivity, and advanced safety systems like ABS braking and traction control, demonstrates that Itawa is not simply producing basic transportation, it is aiming to compete in the contemporary automotive arena, offering vehicles that are both functional and technologically advanced.
What if everything you thought you knew about Burkina Faso was wrong? For years, international headlines painted this West African nation as unsafe, unstable, and hopelessly poor. But on the streets of Ouagadougou, the capital, there's a different story unfolding, one that most of the world has never seen. It's the story of a country pushing past stereotypes, rewriting its own future, and doing it with technology so bold that it rivals industries in the world's most advanced economies. I saw it with my own eyes, an electric car factory right here in Burkina Faso, not imported, not assembled from foreign parts. These cars are fully designed and manufactured locally. Their sleek bodies and futuristic interiors gleam under showroom lights, a sight that instantly silences anyone who still clings to the outdated image of a struggling African nation. Walking into the showroom, I couldn't help but think of Tesla or BMW, but these weren't Western imports. They were proudly African-made, stamped with the logo of Sahel Motors, a name rooted in local identity. Every model carried a personality of its own. Bold curves, sharp detailing, and technology packed inside that would surprise even the biggest critics. This one, a guide said, pointing to a model named Haka, can hit ranges of up to 400 kilometers on a full charge. Its doors open smoothly, sensors flashing on a central screen, showing every alert in real time. Inside, the dashboard was clean and futuristic. Wireless charging ports sat neatly between the seats, and the entire system ran on touch controls. And here's the shocker. This car sells for just $16,000, less than half the price of many popular electric vehicles in the West. Outside, dozens of these cars lined up, ready for delivery. Small urban runabouts, sleek mid-size sedans, even sportier designs with double exhaust-style finishes, all fully electric. What's even more striking is the infrastructure supporting them. Charging stations are springing up across Ouagadougou, and expansion plans are already underway to cover major highways. And the factory? It's massive. We drove 30 kilometers out of the city to see it for ourselves. A sprawling complex surrounded by solar panels, buzzing with workers. Construction crews were busy putting the finishing touches on assembly lines that will soon be producing vehicles at scale. Within 3 months, locals say, the factory will be fully operational, employing thousands and creating a supply chain entirely powered by Burkinabe talent and resources. This is bigger than cars, one worker told me, his voice full of pride. It's about proving that we can build, we can innovate, and we don't need to wait for outsiders to do it for us. And it's true. Less than 3 years ago, none of this existed. The shift began in 2022 when Captain Ibrahim Traoré came to power. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso has pivoted toward bold industrialization and self-reliance. Roads once riddled with potholes are now smooth and lined with solar-powered streetlights. New malls are opening in the capital. Even the aviation sector is seeing movement, with regional airlines like Turkish and Ethiopian increasing flights in and out of Ouagadougou. Meanwhile, French airlines, once dominant here, have pulled back following political disputes and growing anti-colonial sentiment. Traoré has been blunt. If France wants back in, it must publicly admit that the country is safe and retract its negative portrayal in Western media. For now, the skies are filled with carriers from Africa and beyond, and the local economy is thriving regardless. Inside the electric car plant, excitement is everywhere. Workers spoke about the jobs this factory would create, the training programs already underway, and how this single project has sparked hope for a new wave of industries: battery production, renewable energy installations, and tech startups. These cars, one man said, gesturing at a half-finished model on the assembly line, are proof that Africa is not waiting anymore. We are building our own future. Standing there, I realized how disconnected the outside narrative has been from this reality. Western headlines still focus on conflict and instability, but here, on the ground, it's innovation, growth, and pride that dominate the conversation. As we toured, I noticed solar arrays powering the facility, a clear sign of Burkina Faso's focus on sustainability. Engineers explained how local talent was being trained to handle every part of production, from design to assembly. Even logistics are being localized. Vehicles will be shipped across Africa at reduced costs, making it easier for neighboring countries to buy directly from Burkina Faso, rather than relying on imports from Europe or Asia. Before leaving, I climbed into the driver's seat of one of their newest models. The cabin smelled of fresh leather, the seats hugged perfectly, and the quiet hum of its electric engine felt surreal. This wasn't a prototype. It was ready to drive off the lot. When I asked the price again, $16,000 for the base model, $53,000 for a high-performance version, it hit me. This is more than a car factory. This is a statement to the world that Africa is not just participating in the global market, it's setting new benchmarks. But here's the part that really shook me. This entire transformation began less than 3 years ago. If this is what's possible in that short time, what will Burkina Faso look like in another 5 or 10 years? We wrapped up our tour at sunset, the factory glowing under rows of solar lights. In the distance, I could see the new road stretching back toward Ouagadougou, smooth and illuminated, like a pathway into the future. And for once, I thought, maybe it's time the world stopped telling Africa's story for her and started listening to the one Africa is writing for herself. The gates of the electric car factory opened slowly, revealing a complex that seemed more like something out of Germany or Japan than what the world has been told to expect in West Africa. The air smelled of fresh paint and cut metal. Workers in blue uniforms moved with precision, carrying tools, guiding robotic arms, and piecing together the frames of vehicles that will soon hit roads across the continent. The scale of it was overwhelming. Wide assembly lines stretched into the distance, each section dedicated to a different phase of production. One area focused on welding the car bodies. Another was stacked with rows of lithium batteries, locally assembled and tested. The sound of machinery was steady and rhythmic. This wasn't chaos. It was organized, disciplined work. I spoke with a young technician named Adama. At just 24 years old, he's part of the first generation trained under Burkina Faso's new technical skills initiative. Before this, I never imagined I'd be working on electric cars. He told me, adjusting his safety glasses. Now I'm not just working. I'm learning skills people usually travel abroad to study. This factory has changed my life. He's not alone. The facility has already hired hundreds, and by full capacity, it's projected to employ thousands, from engineers and designers to assembly workers and logistics staff. Each paycheck fuels local businesses, from food vendors near the gates to real estate developments springing up nearby. The impact isn't just industrial, it's social. As we walked deeper into the facility, a supervisor pointed to an area under construction. This will be the research and development wing, he said proudly. We're not just building cars, we're designing better ones. Plans are underway to partner with local universities, creating programs where students study renewable energy, automotive engineering, and battery technology, all without leaving Burkina Faso. And that's part of the bigger picture, self-reliance. Under President Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, the country isn't just importing expertise, it's building it. New vocational schools are cropping up. Training programs are being run in French and local languages, ensuring that ordinary citizens, not just elites, can join the industrial wave. Outside the factory floor, I noticed something striking. Solar panels lined nearly every roof. The facility is almost entirely powered by renewable energy. We didn't want to build a future dependent on fossil fuels, one manager explained. Our cars run on clean power, so it only made sense that our factory does too. The design philosophy goes further. Waste from production is recycled wherever possible, and a partnership is in place with a local recycling plant to reuse materials. This approach aligns with Traoré's wider vision, a Burkina Faso that doesn't just develop, but does so sustainably. It's a sharp contrast to the image of the country pushed by foreign media. For decades, stories of coups, poverty, and instability overshadowed everything else. But here, standing amid rows of freshly built electric vehicles. That narrative feels outdated. This isn't just survival, it's progress. We then drove a few minutes away to a housing project built specifically for factory workers. Rows of newly constructed duplexes stood along paved streets lit by solar lamps. Children played soccer in open green spaces. Families sat outside, chatting and laughing. It was a neighborhood built for the future, clean, organized, and powered by the very economic boom we'd just seen in action. One resident, a woman named Miriam, invited us into her home. Before this job, we lived in a one-room house in the old city, she said. Now my husband works at the factory and we can afford this. She pointed proudly to the living room, furnished simply but warmly. It's not just a job, it's dignity. Back at the factory, I was shown one of the most impressive sections, the testing track. A small circuit ran around the compound where finished cars were put through their paces. Acceleration tests, braking drills, even simulated rough terrain. I watched as one of the sleek Sahel sedans sped past silently, its electric engine making little more than a faint hum. Standing there, I couldn't help but think, how many people outside Africa know this is happening? How many would even believe it? This is part of a bigger national shift. Since 2022, Burkina Faso has launched several major infrastructure projects. Solar farms now supply electricity to rural areas once left in darkness. New roads connect remote towns to the capital, cutting travel time in half. Agricultural hubs are turning local farming into export-ready businesses. Airlines from across Africa are increasing flights here, boosting tourism and trade. And through it all, President Traoré has pushed one clear message. Burkina Faso will write its own story. The electric car factory is just one chapter, but it's a powerful one. It shows what's possible when a nation invests in itself rather than waiting for foreign aid or foreign approval. As we left, I noticed a group of workers gathered around a display of car prototypes. They were laughing, debating designs, and sketching ideas on a whiteboard. It felt less like an assembly plant and more like a tech startup, a place buzzing with ambition. Before heading back to the city, we stopped near a viewing deck overlooking the entire site. From above, the scale was breathtaking. Solar roofs, clean assembly lines, and rows of cars glinting in the afternoon sun. Beyond the fence, the skyline of Ouagadougou rose in the distance, a reminder of how quickly this transformation is radiating outward. A worker standing nearby said something that stuck with me. In a few years, people won't say Burkina Faso is poor. They'll say Burkina Faso builds cars. It's hard to argue with that. Driving back into Ouagadougou after touring the factory felt like stepping into a different country than the one so often described by foreign media. Streetlights powered by solar panels illuminated smooth roads. Small shops bustled with customers. Billboards advertised locally made products, from food to fashion. And now, electric cars. Everywhere we went, there was a sense of pride, not just in what had been built, but in what was coming next. People spoke about the factory the way you'd expect people in Silicon Valley to talk about a new tech campus. It wasn't just a workplace. It was a symbol, proof that Burkina Faso could take control of its own story. But this shift isn't only about cars. It's part of a larger transformation sweeping across the nation. President Ibrahim Traoré's government has poured resources into projects designed to keep wealth inside the country. For decades, raw materials left Africa cheaply, only to be sold back at a premium. Traoré has flipped that script. Now, industries are being built here to process and refine those materials, keeping the value and the jobs local. The car factory is a perfect example. Instead of importing vehicles, Burkina Faso now builds them. The batteries, sourced and assembled locally. The labor, trained at home. Even the power comes from the sun, thanks to massive solar farms linked directly to the grid. This is a model that other African nations are watching closely. Economists have already noted a surge in GDP growth. Local entrepreneurs are investing in logistics firms, charging station networks, and even small component manufacturing businesses. Every new job at the factory supports more jobs outside it. Drivers, suppliers, food vendors, and construction workers building housing for employees. And the world is beginning to notice. Delegations from neighboring countries have toured the site, exploring partnerships. Ghana, Mali, and Côte d'Ivoire are in talks to establish regional distribution deals for the vehicles. Some are even discussing setting up joint battery recycling centers to support the growing EV industry across West Africa. Internationally, reactions have been mixed. While African nations celebrate this achievement, some Western media outlets remain slow to acknowledge it, clinging to outdated narratives. But for Burkinabés, that skepticism only fuels determination. One local journalist summed it up perfectly. For too long, we've been defined by stories written about us. Now we're writing our own, a president driving change. Much of this momentum traces back to President Ibrahim Traoré. His policies haven't just focused on industry, but also on restoring national pride and independence. Foreign interference, especially from France, has been pushed back firmly. When French airlines suspended flights, Traoré didn't plead for their return. Instead, he strengthened ties with Turkey, Ethiopia, and other African partners, ensuring the skies stayed open without reliance on Paris. This stance has resonated deeply with ordinary citizens. In markets, in cafes, even in taxis, you hear the same thing. We finally have a leader who puts us first. For many, the car factory is more than a business. It's a symbol of that promise delivered. And while critics warn about the challenges ahead, training enough engineers, scaling production, maintaining stable power supplies, supporters remain confident. Every country starts somewhere, one worker told me. Europe didn't build cars overnight. Why shouldn't we take our first steps now? The Africa-wide ripple effect. What's happening in Burkina Faso could be the spark that lights a continent-wide movement. Across Africa, leaders are watching closely. If this model works here, it offers a blueprint for industrial independence elsewhere. Already, talk of joint projects is spreading. Battery production plants in the Congo, assembly lines in Nigeria, solar-powered charging grids stretching from Dakar to Nairobi. For decades, African nations competed for foreign aid. Now there's a vision forming of collaboration built on shared resources and shared industries. In that sense, Burkina Faso's electric car factory is more than just a factory. It's a statement of intent. Africa will not be the world's raw material supplier forever. Africa will build, innovate, and lead. A glimpse of the future. As night fell over Ouagadougou, we returned to the city center. The streets were alive. Couples strolled beneath lit boulevards. Families sat outside restaurants serving everything from local dishes to Mexican food. Near a mall, I spotted a parked Sahel EV, its charging cable plugged neatly into a public station. A small group had gathered around it, taking photos and asking questions. For a moment, it hit me. This is what the future looks like. Not imported, not borrowed. Built here by Burkinabés for Burkinabés. And this is just the beginning. Within the next year, 3 separate electric car manufacturers are expected to operate in Burkina Faso. Training programs are scaling up to prepare thousands more workers. Plans for exports across Africa are already on the table. Imagine what that means 5 years from now. 10. The takeaway. This isn't a fairy tale. It's real. It's happening right now in a country many once dismissed. Burkina Faso is proving that with vision, leadership, and determination, even nations written off by the global establishment can rise and redefine themselves. And as I left the factory for the last time, one thought kept echoing. If Burkina Faso can do this in just 3 years, what's stopping the rest of Africa from doing the same? If this story surprised you, it should. Because this is not just about cars. It's about rewriting history, and it's happening in real time. What do you think about Burkina Faso's transformation? Could this spark a new era for Africa? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to support this work by liking the video and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this.